Jeremy Thomas is a glass artist. He travels around the United States using facilities in various locations to create works of art. He is a glass blower extraordinaire and has created unique designs, especially including his trademark claw goblet.
So here we've just started sculpting the fingers. We've got a couple of fingers on now. It's really about just sculpting them, flattening them out, really making them look as more real than real as we can. People look at something like this and they want to imagine what a skeletal finger looks like or a claw looks like, not what they really look like, but what they think they look like. We have to give them flashes of heat. Here's my assistant sculpting the first part of the next finger. She's smoothing out that rod of glass and just kind of starting the basic shape, kind of cutting it to a taper and crimping in the first part of the joints. And she'll get that bit hot. She'll meet me back at the bench in just a moment, and we'll lay it on and we'll start sculpting that third finger. And we don't do a lot of sculpting in this shop, but really this piece I designed over the last couple years, and I just have a lot of fun doing it. See, everything has to be done really quickly here. The time that she gives it a flash of heat to bring it to the bench, I've got less than 30 seconds to really sculpt that finger and move on to the next one.
Did you create this design?
I did. I've been working on it for the last couple of years. My prototypes looked much different. I really tried to make them more anatomically correct, and they just didn't work. They didn't look real. The hands looked too big, because people, when they imagine fingers, don't really think about the bones in the back of the hand as much. They just think about those three joints in the finger that you can see. So I've kind of left those out now. I used to put all the bones in for the wrist and the back of the hand. It looked oversized and comical, even though it wasn't realistic. Later on in the piece, you'll see the arm bone go on. That's kind of the stem of the goblet. And I used to put both the radius and the ulna in there and sculpt them appropriately. But again, it just looked weird. It didn't hold in your hand right, and it just wasn't right. It's kind of that more real than real thing I was talking about. You have to make it look the part.
Well, that's what struck me about this design. It's a perfect embodiment of a clawed hand holding a goblet, and it's just done so beautifully.
Well, thank you. It was a lot of fun to design. I made 3 or 4 prototypes, and everyone, as I made them, they became less and less anatomical and more representative as I was making them. And really, I think I've keyed in on the design that really works.
Well, that's the beauty of art. I mean, a photograph is not necessarily art, but if you do it in a unique kind of a stylized way that's unique for you, now you're an artist creating a work of art.
Well, that's really true. You see there, she's sculpting the thumb. Again, one less joint. In a typical finger, even though your thumb really has 3 bones in it, we just put 2 in this one. Everything's just kind of scaled a little differently. Placement on this thumb is really important. If it's put in the wrong place, the whole thing just doesn't look right. There it looks like a hand. If that thumb were a little bit further to the left or a little further to the right, it wouldn't look like a hand anymore. That's a really important part of it. Even though your thumb can go anywhere, if you move your palm, you can put that thumb anywhere in relation to your other fingers. If you're holding something, it really is in that spot, and it's really important for that piece.
Absolutely. And I love the opportunity to see it take shape as it's developing.
Yeah, that's always fun for me when I'm making it. I have a tremendous amount of fun making this piece. I've made dozens of these now, and every time it's just as much fun as the first, because you get to watch that hand kind of come to life, so to speak. Just dropping a hot blob of glass there to be the back of the hand. Again, this is not going to sculpt each individual bone. Just kind of pull it up, kind of fuse it all together, and it's just kind of represent
and there's
the back
of the hand. Wonderful, because I looked at it. I actually bought this piece, and looking at it up close, it looks remarkably like an anatomically correct hand of an imaginary being, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's really what they became when I first started representing these as a clawed goblet. I was a skeletal hand goblet. It's not that anymore. It's just a clawed hand of something.
Yeah.
And it really works like that. I think it's really an interesting piece.
it's absolutely unique, and I'm so thankful to have had the opportunity to watch you work and to talk with you about doing it.
Well, I'm glad. I said it's a lot of fun. Everything has to be done at the right time. You saw me kind of motioning to my assistant there, trying to get our timing right. We're communicating and really making sure that everything's going to go right. She's about to sculpt what will be the start of the stem and the arm. She's going to come out with a cylinder of glass and smooth it out on the table, and there she is holding it there. And she's going to take the cylinder and she's going to kind of give it some texture and some shape. And I mean, on this piece, about half of the sculpting is done by the assistant, which is not typical, really, on these pieces. A lot of sculptors, when they do their work, they sculpt it all themselves. They'll get a hot bit and they'll just make it, but for the sake of speed and making it fairly quickly.
Sure.
In regards to other sculpt pieces, can take hours to make some of the really in-depth pieces.
Well, what you're doing here, this is molten glass at about how many degrees Fahrenheit?
When it comes out of the furnace, it's right around 2,000, maybe 2,200 degrees. By the time it gets to me at the bench there, it's probably about 1,700. So it cools off quick.
Yeah, it loses the heat pretty fast, which means you guys have to work in close coordination with each other.
Oh yeah, it's a lot like dancing in a lot of ways. You move around each other, you have to know what the other person's going to be doing, when they're going to be doing it, and how it all goes together. You have to always keep the finished piece in mind while you're working so that everything can be kept in step or in time.
Yeah. This tool here with the cone on it, what is that doing?
That's a soffietta. It's just a curved pipe, but she's putting air on that hot bit of glass. It's too hot, and I need to stretch it and shape it. And if it's too hot in one spot and too cold in another, it won't pull out in the thickness that I want.
Okay.
So if I want it to be an even thickness throughout, I need to cool it off. So she's watching for where it's pulling thin and blowing on those spots to cool them down.
Precisely delivering a tiny little stream of air exactly where it's needed. I love how you have the wrist of the creature
kind
curved a little. It's not at all a rigid thing. It's very organic.
Yeah, we've tried to. I mean, while bones certainly aren't curved at this point, it's no longer skeletal. Like I said, it becomes kind of representative. And when you hold your arm up like you're holding something, it's not really straight up and down. It's got a little bit.
There is a bend to it. Right.
And so that's what we're trying to represent.
So you're doing the most realistic rendering of an imaginary creature possible.
Yeah, that's the idea. I like that, the way to put that. That's a good way to put it. So now we've cooled that stem off. You saw me blowing on there again with the soffietta, which, by the way, I think translates roughly to little puffer or small puff in Italian. Again, I'm cooling it off a little more. We're getting ready to put the foot on now, and if that stem is moving at all when the foot goes on, it's just going to bend and won't be centered. And while this is a pretty asymmetrical thing, I still want it to have a line of symmetry down the middle. So if you look straight down it...
Yeah, if you stand it up, it stands up perpendicular.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a hot blob of glass.
This is one of my favorite
At
shots.
2,000 degrees of glass, fresh out of the furnace.
Good heavens. And you cut it with a scissor, and then you heat the... What's with the blowtorch?
It's not a necessary step, but there's a cut mark. You can kind of see that little triangle. That cut mark from the tool is colder than the rest of it. And I'm going to put the stem right on top of that.
And it has to be hot.
It doesn't have to be, but it certainly will make it look better. If you look through the bottom of the foot when it's done, you'll see the cut line unless you've torched it out. So I don't want you to see that mark.
You even take out the tiniest little imperfection.
Yeah, I like to. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, it's handmade. That's how you know." No, to me that's a
cop
out. It's a cheap way to get out of it. You can do better. A lot of craftsmen can do better. They just choose not to. And I want it to be as good as it can be.
Well, I think what we have here is a miraculous creation. I'm just in awe of how carefully and precisely you render it. And your assistant obviously knows what she's doing, and the glass is purely clear crystal.
There's no imperfections in that one at all. I was very happy with the way that one came out.
Yeah.
And yeah, Megan's very talented. She's the one assisting me in this, and I can make these with other people. They're so much easier and less stressful with her. She's been helping me on them for the last year or so, and we know each other's timing now. I know how long it's going to take her to do each individual piece. I don't have to coach her through each finger. It's just so much easier when she helps me.
Sure. Well, how would someone get in touch with you if they wanted to have a piece done, custom piece, or see more of your work?
If you want to get in touch with me, you could contact me through my email. Would probably be the best way. You could get a hold of me there. Do you want me to give you that now?
Yeah, sure. Give it right now, and this will go up on YouTube or wherever for you as a contact.
You can get a hold of me at J Thomas Glass Arts. That just J as in the single letter. Thomas THOMAS Glass Arts at gmail.com. That is my personal email address. If you're interested in learning more about this or what I do, or ordering a piece directly from me, you can do that, and that would be great.
Terrific.